Hi everyone! Today I have what could be a little bit of a controversial video, if you want to call it that. I mean, obviously you've seen the title of the video already, but we are going to do a first impression with the new Kat Von D Fetish Palette. And if you haven't already seen this, it looks like this. So it's got a lot of really like dark fall shades, and I'm really excited to play with this. I haven't even touched it, and I would like to start by swatching it, but first off, I just want to give a quick disclaimer and say that
I'm not here to talk about the Kat Von D drama. If you want to see my opinions on that, I will leave my unpopular opinions in the beauty community up there, and you can check it out if you want to.
But in this video, we are going to stay positive. We're going to take a look at this palette, see what it has to offer. I'm going to do some swatches, then we're going to do a look with it, and I will sum up with my final conclusions on the palette. And then the next week or so, I will probably put up a 3 looks 1 palette with this as well. And I'm really excited because I honestly don't have any Kat Von D palettes, so I can't wait to dig into this because I've heard so many good things, and I feel like I've missed out on so many great palettes just because I kind of got into makeup a bit later than a lot of other people. So let's just get into the swatches and see how they do. So I think the best way to swatch this is to just kind of go by rows this way. I mean, this palette is a little bit jumbled up and kind of messy, so I feel like that's probably going to be the best way to do it. And I'm so sorry if there's like noise in the background, but we literally have a full house right now. There's 7 of us. My in-laws are staying with us, so it's very loud, and I wasn't planning on filming this week, but I want to get this video up as soon as possible, so let's get into the swatches. So my first impression on the swatches is that the mattes are really soft, and they seem to swatch very well. I'm actually really impressed by all these colors, how they swatch, and also some of the shimmers are a little bit crumbly, but it's not the only formula that is like this, and I'm excited to see like how they perform on the lid, if there's a lot of fallout and stuff like that. So I think we're just going to get into a look. Obviously this is not going to be a full review because I'm not going to be able to put all these shades on my lids. That would be quite the challenge, but I'm going to try to use, let's see, 4 or 5 maybe 6, and see if I can come up with something that looks good. So let's just get started. Starting off by taking Safe Word, and I'm going to put that in my crease as my transition shade. I already primed my eyes with my MAC Paint Pot, and I set it with a nude colored eyeshadow. And this shade is literally the perfect transition shade. It's, at least for my skin tone, I should say. It has just enough pigment that it barely shows up, but it still has a little bit of pigmentation to it. Again, I'm so sorry for the noise in the background. It's really not in my control right now because they're all out there making breakfast, and I would be really mad if someone told me I couldn't make breakfast, so we're just gonna let that slide today. I'm honestly kind of surprised at how much this shade shows up on my eyelid, because in the pan it looks kind of light, but on the eyes it's actually like a really nice transition shade. On a smaller fluffy brush, I'm going to go in with Bondage. I mean, you can really see how big this palette is right now. It literally is like bigger than my face, so it's a little bit bulky, but I don't really mind it. It's not like, I don't really store my palettes in drawers. I just kind of have them in like a box next to the desk right here. So I'm putting the shade on the inner part of my crease, and I'm going to pull it about 2/3 of the way out, and then on the outer corner I'm going to put a blue. And the reason why I'm not putting down this on the outer corner as well is because if I put the blue on top, it's going to make a purple, because red and blue makes purple, so I want to keep them a little separated so that I have a blue on my outer corner and then like a purple transition in the middle kind of, and then red in the other part of my eye. This brush is a 10S from Inglot, and it's really good for this area right here because it really gets in there. So the shades are definitely very pigmented, although this one seems to be a tiny bit patchy just from trying to blend it out right here. It's not bad by any means. You just need to work with it a little extra. So I'm going to call that good for now, and I'm going to dip into Obsession, which is this dark blue shade. And I'm moving over to a bigger fluffy brush, and I'm going to start by packing this on the outer corner And I'm not blending it out yet. I'm first putting it down and then I'm going to start blending. And this is also a very pigmented shade. I just dipped in one more time and now I'm going to start by slowly pulling this in towards where I put down the red. Also working on blending out the edges on the outer corner. And when I don't have a lot of product left on my brush, I'm going to start pulling this over the red. And I'm not pulling this blue all the way in, I'm keeping it about 2/3 of the way. I'm also just dipping back into the red a little bit, starting to go over these two colors right here just to blend them together. And I'm just going to be going back and forth until the transition is the way that I like it to be. So far I'm enjoying the formula on these. Just want to say that one thing to keep in mind when working with colors that are a little bit more muted and on the dark side is that they do have a tendency to muddy together. So what you don't want to do is start by building up a bunch of different colors in the crease, especially if they're not like in the same like color family. Like you don't want to be layering like blues on top of reds on top of purples and stuff like that. You want to kind of put them next to each other instead to really make them stand out, because otherwise they're just going to make like a nasty brown color. If you want to see a video that I did on color theory, I will link that up there. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you plan on getting this palette, that it's a kind of palette that, since you have shades that are like kind of dark and that aren't primary colors, they just don't work that well like layered on top of each other. So you need to kind of put them next to each other and then slightly blend a little bit instead of trying to build up a bunch of different colors in your crease, if that makes any sense. So next up I want to take Latex, which is this very dark blue shimmery shade. And this is one of the shades that seemed to be a little bit crumbly at first. So I'm wondering how this is going to work on a brush. So I'm taking my MAC 242 brush, and this is my favorite to use with these kind of shades. And it definitely picked up a lot on the brush, and this is making me think that it's going to have a lot of fallout. So I'm going to spray my brush because that is what I always do with shimmers. So I like to compare them to shimmers the way that I'm used to them working. So I'm going to start by patting this onto my outer corner. And this has a lot of pigment. That is really pretty actually. And I'm putting this all over until where I started the red. And I'm just using patting motions instead of dragging it, because I do want to kind of avoid fallout, and the shade is so pigmented anyway that you don't need to put a lot of pressure on. Wow, I literally just got shadow in my eye. Whew, that did not feel good. Alright, moving on. So this shade is not like a foil, it's more like a satin with glitter in it. And I kind of like it because I don't have a shade like this. I will say that I do have a little bit of fallout under my eye, so I'm gonna have to remove that after. But this is a very unique shade to my collection. And I love how dark it is. And so far it seems like all the shades in the palette have performed darker on my eyes than what they look like in the pan. So another thing to keep in mind, if you don't want like a very dark smoky eye palette, then this palette is probably not for you. But so far I'm very impressed by the formula, and I really like how easy they are to work with. Next up I'm taking a smaller flat brush and I'm dipping into Shibari, which is this really, really pretty green shimmery shade. And this doesn't look like it has glitter in it. This looks to be more of a foil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that, I want to try this without spraying it because I feel like it's going to perform very well. Oh, I love that. So I'm putting this next to blue because I don't want this to be like a 4th of July look. And I also don't want it to be a Christmas look, so, you know, who knows where we're going to end up with this. Next, for my very inner corner, I'm going to go in with Submissive, which is this gold shade that seems to have a little bit of a green shift. So I'm hoping this is going to play well with the other green that I just put down. And this seems to be another one of those very crumbly shades, so it's not picking up on my brush very well. I don't know if you can see this. So instead I'm going to try on my MAC brush because I seem to have better luck with that for this kind of shade. And I'm definitely picking up a little more on the brush, but this is again a shade that I need to spray. Like I can just tell that this is going to crumble and get everywhere if I don't. And I'm going to put this right in my inner corner. And that's really pretty. And I'm just blending it into the green ever so slightly. And for my lower lash line, since I do have green on my upper lid, I'm going to put this green matte shade, which is called La Petite Morte. I'm probably saying that way wrong, and I have no idea what that means. So I'm going to take this on a little fluffy brush from Morphe. This is the Morphe M149. I love this for my lower lash line. And I'm just going to be pulling this all the way from the outer corner to the inner corner. And the shade doesn't seem to stick as well in my lower lash line, which is probably because I don't have any eyeshadow primer, and this tends to happen to me a lot. So lately I've been starting to, before putting shadow on my lower lash line, I've been going in with my MAC Paint Pot and just like putting a thin layer right where I need to put the shadow. And it seemed to really help, so this is definitely a shadow that I wish I did that with because it's taken a little bit to build up, and I'm afraid when I go back in to try to blend out the edges that the color is just going to blend away. But honestly, that is not the color's fault, that is just me not having any eyeshadow primer down. So I'm really loving the color story in this palette, and honestly, I'm extremely impressed so far. I'm really having a good time with this and I'm enjoying it. I can't wait to play more with this like in the fall and winter because I love that the shades are colorful, but they're not like rainbow. Like they're kind of darker but still colorful, and I find that kind of fun. I can see myself doing a lot of like monochromatic looks with this palette because most of the shades have like a matte shade that corresponds with the shimmery shades, so that's something I really enjoy doing, just one color in the crease and then a shimmer on the lid instead of putting, you know, 10 colors on my eyes like I am right now, but that's just because I'm reviewing it. So I'm going to take the same brush and I'm going to dip into the gold greenish shade that I put on my inner corner, and I'm going to put a little bit more of that in my inner corner and also pull it down my lower lash line. And again, I'm like spraying my brush with a lot of fixed palettes before I do this because the shade is very crumbly. So just to finish up and make sure that all of this is clean, I'm going to take a clean fluffy brush and just front this on top of my crease. And just make sure that everything is blended. So pulling down my lower lash line. Just connecting everything on the outer corner. And I will zoom you in a little bit so you can see the fallout that I have on my cheek here. It's not much. So I'm going to try to remove that now, and I'm going to take my powder brush that I used earlier, and I'm going to dip this into a little bit of loose powder and just swipe it away. And most of it came off, but I do have a little bit of streaks going on under here, but not so much that anyone can really see it. And the more I go over with this brush, I'm not having any issues. So very little fallout, just a tiny bit with that dark blue, which is probably because it does have some glitter in it, and glittery, shimmery shades seem to have some fallout, and that's just the nature of the shade, I guess. So here is the finished eye look without mascara and liner. So I'm going to go put on some mascara and liner, and then I will be right back. And then we will conclude my opinions on the Gal Bang Fetish Palette. So I'll be right back. And I'm back. So for my waterline, I used this Sephora pencil. This is the green one called Indulge Yourself, and honestly I think this is discontinued. I'm so sorry, but I love this pencil, so I'm still going to keep using it. So my first impression on the palette is that I'm honestly really impressed. The shadows performed beautifully. I really like how the final look came out. I love the color story in this. I know this palette is not for everyone, and I know a lot of people are not going to want to buy this just because of everything that happened with Gal Bang, but for me, this is a beautiful, kind of muted, fallish color story. Is going to be great for darker looks. And I know that the whole theme of the palette kind of throws some people off since it's called like the fetish palette and it has names and stuff like that. That kind of goes along with that. But for me, like, I really don't care what the names of the shadows that I use are. Like, even if a shadow would have like a controversial name, I really wouldn't care because I don't buy makeup because of the packaging or because of the names of certain shades or lipstick or stuff like that. Like, I simply don't care that much about it. All I care about is the color scheme and how they perform, and if I'm going to rate this palette on how it performs, I would so far give it 2 thumbs up because I really like it. And let me know if any of you guys have ordered this or if you plan on getting it, because I would love to talk to you about it, because I feel like there's not going to be that many people out there buying this palette. So I am personally really happy I have it. I can't wait to play with it. If you don't want to see Kat Von D stuff on my channel, please just don't watch. If you do, I love you, and if you're new to my channel, I hope you would consider subscribing, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.